So in this video, we're going to take a look at how we create a Botpress Chatbot that's able to search through complex PDFs for very specific answers. I'm Crispy, aka Chris Pinsky, and I'm the founder of Crispy Software Solutions, where we help businesses transform their processes and build the tools needed to take their business to the next level. So let's dive in. So the PDFs that we're looking at are manufacturing specific. This is a problem that's specific to the supply chain and manufacturing industry because what they do is on the distribution side, when a distributor is looking for a particular product for, their customer, they have to go through these product catalogs that all the different manufacturers give them, and they have to search through and find these different parts in these catalogs manually. So this can be a pretty tedious process, and oftentimes a lot of the different distributors will rely upon the physical books, the physical copies of the catalogs themselves, even to this day. So as you can see here, we're looking at a PDF that has 136 pages, and in this solution, we're only going to be looking at just searching just one PDF. Whereas in the real world, you would want to search across maybe even hundreds of different PDFs across tens of different manufacturers. So let's take a look and see some of the different data in here. Let's get down here. Here's an actual product itself. Here's a particular tap. And as you can see, for a particular tap, there's a lot of different measurements. So there's a lot of different variations of that tap based upon the different measurements that you need, for your particular use case. And you can see that again and again and again throughout the PDF, another type of tap, another, slightly different set of measurements for this particular tap. So what we built here and what we're taking a look at is we're taking a look at a Botpress chatbot. Now, again, like I said, this is a very simplified version of this problem because we're only looking at one PDF. In the real world, you'd want to have the solution search through maybe even hundreds of different PDFs and be able to find, the part that makes sense for a given customer across many different manufacturers. And sometimes that means that only one manufacturer will have a part that matches, or maybe there'll be many different manufacturers that have parts that match. But at least, in this particular solution, we can search through our one PDF, our one manufacturer, and find a given part. Okay, so let's take a look here and see what we have. So one thing that we have over here is on the left-hand side, and let me expand this a bit. We have our different workflows. So the one that we're going to be focused on is the main workflow for the most part, and that's what you're seeing right now in the editor. So again, Botpress is a chatbot builder. It's a very visual tool. Helps you create chatbots, quicker and more efficiently than other types of tools. And it's very nice because it's visual, so anybody on the team could theoretically come in here and start to understand the different logic that's involved and how this chatbot is really created and how it works underneath the hood. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and let's go through the flow. And while we're going through the flow, we'll talk about all the different pieces, what they mean, how they work, and why they were chosen. So right here, the green start, this is where all the different chats start, right? So this is the entry point into the chatbot. From there, we have these little gray boxes. And the gray boxes are what is called a node. So the way to think about a node is it's like it's a well-contained piece of logic for your chatbot. Okay. So in this first node, I've named it intent detection because what we want to do here is we want to understand from the user that's typing into the chatbot what kind of product they want to search for. And that's called an intent. Okay. Understanding what they want to do. What is the user intending to do? So let's take a look within here. We've got a couple different things within this node. So the first thing that we have is we have a card These little white boxes are called cards. And this first one here just sends a message to the chatbot. So it says to the user, hello, I can help you search for different types of products you may be interested in finding. And then the next one is looking to capture information. It's looking for user input. So this one here then asks another question to the user. It says, what type of product would you like to search for? So the question to ask the user, this box here, this will be output to the chatbot. And there's two other things to know here: type of value to extract and store result in. So what you're doing is you're giving it the type of value that it is going to expect as user input. Okay. So here what we have is we have it set to raw input, which is basically just a string. And that's denoted by this capitalized T and lowercase t right here next to raw input. And if I drop down the menu, you can see that there's a lot of different options to choose from. So single choice, multiple choice, again, meaning that you can have a list of values that a user can choose from, maybe a Boolean, a number, email address, so forth and so forth. But what this will do is this will help provide input validation and help extract the right information from what the user is giving you. And then from there, that can be stored in a particular variable. So as you can see here, we're storing it in workflow.product to search. So these are all the different variables that we can store things in. And these are just the variables that you're seeing here. These are the ones that have already been created. If we want to create a new one, we can type into here, new variable, and then hit enter. And that'll create a brand new variable. We won't do that right now though, because we want this to store in product to search. Now, when it comes to variables, we can go over this really quickly first. If we come back over here to the left-hand side, we can see that down here, we have all the different variables for our workflow. So throughout the workflow, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different variables that can be assigned values to, and that will be used then for additional logic, within the chatbot. So as of now, it says that they're all not set because the chatbot hasn't run. There's nothing set in these variables. The other thing to know about variables down here is that they can be edited. So if you come down here to a variable and you hit this button here, this little pencil icon. So now you can start changing the scope. You can change the type of variable that it is, name the variable, whether it's a secret or not, give it a description. This is a nice way to add some documentation and some additional settings. So maybe you want your variable to have a default value or not. Okay, so those are the different variables. This knowledge base we don't have to worry about too much. So from there, now we've captured from the user which product do they want to search for, right? And now the last card within this node is probably the most important one. So this card here is an AI intent. Okay, it's an AI transition. And what you're doing is you're giving the AI some text. And up here you can see that we're passing it in the workflow product to search variable. The AI can then determine smartly what the user provided. So here I've given it different categories. I've told the AI, here are some different categories that the user might provide. And if 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 what the user has input and given matches any of these categories, then we can take a particular action on that. So the categories that we're looking for in particular are tapping tools, end mills, face mills, and deep drilling. And then what you can see here is next to the card, next to each option, there's little dots. And then the dots can connect to another node, which then powers the next part of the flow. Okay. So for this transition, the biggest thing that we're looking for is tapping tools. That's what the chatbot is programmed to act on most appropriately are the tapping tools. All the other ones, the end mills, face mills, deep drilling, and anything else that's given are all going to be sent to the tool not supported node because we haven't built support out within the chatbot for those particular types of tools just yet. Now you might be asking, okay, well, why did you even add in here the end mills, the face mills, the deep drilling? Well, number one, wanted to add it in here for demonstration purposes. But number two, these could be some particular categories that are on the roadmap for upcoming development rather soon. So we know that over the next couple of weeks, maybe we're going to add support for end mills, face mills, deep drilling, whatever have you, and we want that ready to go. We want the other people on the team to know this is the spot where you need to start adding support for that particular type of tool. Okay, so now let's go into our actual tapping tool search. So this is the heart of the workflow, I would say. And what's happening here is the first thing we do is we give a card that lets the user know that the chatbot can help them search. And we just need to ask a couple more questions in order to really find, the item that we're looking for. So the reason why we do this is because there's two options here. On one hand, we can leverage AI almost to its fullest extent, where we can allow the user to type in anything and absolutely everything that they want to, and then hand it off to the AI and let the AI try to search as best as possible. The problem with that is that it's all about the prompt. The better the prompt is, the more successful or the more likely the outcome is to be positive for a given search through AI. So in this particular case, what I've done is I've made it so that way we're asking the user a set of four different questions and three of them are very particular. So let's go through the list. The first one that we ask is about the materials. What materials will you be tapping? And here we actually allow the user to give any input that they want. They can type in anything. So generally what we look for here is something like aluminum, nickel, bronze, brass, things like that. Now the next question is a single choice. So this is where we actually ask the user, what type of thread do you require for your machine and for your particular process? And here we give the user a choice of 10 different items that they can choose from. And the reason for this is because these particular choices match up very well with what is in the PDF, what's in the document. And these are actually a pretty standard set of choices across the entire industry. So that's why it's good to allow the user to search from one of these particular items because it's a pretty standardized set of items. Now, the last thing that we ask for, or sorry, the third thing is the type of hole that they'll be drilling. So in manufacturing, there's a difference between whether you're drilling a through hole, you're going all the way through the material, or you have a blind hole where you're not going all the way through the material. So that is important because that will dictate what type of tap is needed for this particular search. And then finally, we're able to ask the user, are there any other additional details you'd like to provide? So this is sort of like a catch-all where the user can now provide kind of any input that they want in order to aid the search. But what we've done is we've already gathered very specific information in the three questions before that. And then this last question is going to be some supplementary information that can be given to the LLM in order to find the right tool within the PDF. So at that point, then we will have collected all of the information that we want, stored it in all the variables as needed, and then we start getting to the fun part. Now, I wanted to add this in here as a way to show this off. Botpress also gives you the ability to create logs. So this creates a log here, which is a message that will go to the console. And it's a way to help you with debugging, right? So here we can see that I've said return the tapping tool or list the tapping tools that adhere to the following specifications: material, workflow material, thread type. Here's the thread type and the hold type. So this is logging out the three different variables. And honestly, the actual message that's left here was a little bit from early on in my development of this. But the nice thing is that it's still a valid, message, and it gets the point across in terms of being able to log things and being able to help with debugging. Okay, so now is the next piece, and this is maybe the most important piece of the entire chatbot here. So the next piece is if I open up the add cards, let's go through the list here. And it's called a query knowledge bases card. So what this one does is it allows you to search with a very particular query, aka a prompt, against a particular knowledge base. So the query I've provided up here. And let's see if we can see that. Return the tapping tool or list of tapping tools that adhere to the following specifications. The material we will be tapping is, and then we give it the workflow material. The type of thread we are looking for is, and then the thread type. Only return taps that are for a hole type. So this will either be a through or a blind, and then it'll say hole after that. And then we have an entire sentence that is just the additional details. And then we tell it, take additional time to consider your answer and ensure perfect accuracy. Carefully consider all measurements. Okay, so we're at the end there, we're adding some helper to the prompt in order to try to get the LLM to be a little bit more specific and more accurate. Okay, but now we then also have the knowledge base that it should search from. So this is the most important part is the knowledge base. So what we're doing is we're not asking the LLM to search against the entire like OpenAI knowledge base, or maybe even go out to the internet and search against everything that's out there on the internet. But what we've done instead is we've created a very particular set of knowledge, which only contains this PDF. And we asked the LLM to search through that knowledge base only. So let's go take a look at that knowledge base. So again, over here on the left side, we have the default knowledge base over here. So we'll click on that, and then that brings up this screen here. So as you can see here, the only thing that we have in here is catalog tapping.pdf. And when I click on it, you can actually see how it interprets the data. So it puts it in a very text-based format that it's then able to search through and make sense of. But now the only thing to know here is that the knowledge base itself can be given a number of different types of items. So you can give it a website, a document, a table of data. You can tell it to search the web in a particular spot, or maybe give it some rich text. You can even upload data from an API into a knowledge base. So if you want to update your knowledge base, like in real time and on the fly, you have the ability to do that. And even within the knowledge base itself, you can start asking it questions in order to test the knowledge base directly. So if we go back to our main flow here, so the query itself is going to work against that knowledge base and return us some sort of answer. Again, it could be anything because the LLM that's determining the answer here. And this is another good point because the LLM is actually set within the settings. So there's a couple different spots where you have to look at this. So one place to look at this is the bot settings itself. So the bot settings itself, um, it gives you a number of different options here. You can define the default fast LLM, so whatever you want your default to be for executing quick and easy tasks. The best LLM, so if you need the highest quality responses, which one do you want to use? And then the autonomous language model, you can select that. And as you can see here, there's a number of different options, right? There's OpenAI, there's Anthropic with Claude, there's Grok. So you can choose from any of these depending upon your use case. And then you can select the LLMZ version. All right, now that's one spot to create your settings. The other spot that's actually very important for our particular use case is going into the agent itself and looking at the knowledge agent. So the knowledge agent is the agent that's going to search against the actual knowledge base in order to return us the answer that we're looking for, given all the input. So in here, we've told the knowledge agent that we want the model strategy to always use the best model. And then down here, we've given it what we believe is the best model. So right now we're using the GPT 4.0 August 2024 version. Okay, the fastest model really won't be used by us in this particular use case, but we set the fast model to GPT 4.0 mini. And then you can set your different stuff like your chunks, and this is really where you fine tune a little bit how you want the agent to act when it's searching the knowledge base. Okay, so once that returns an answer, now we need to start determining what that answer was. So here we actually have a code execution module that's going to execute some code against what answer was provided by the knowledge agent. So you can see here on the first line, we're actually grabbing the answer that was given from the knowledge agent, and we're checking to make sure that that answer wasn't null and that there is actually an answer. So we're checking that the length is greater than 0. And that's going to help us determine whether or not a knowledge base answer was found. So will that be true or false? And then the next thing we do is we actually do a transition. So the transition is basically a logic, kind of like an if then statement that based upon the expression and based upon the output of that, different things will happen. So here, and let me expand this a little bit. It's actually kind of neat because what Botpress does is they give you a way to use generative AI in order to generate the condition, which is the coded piece of this. So what I was able to do was I was able to type in here, if workflow knowledge base answer found is false, and it translated that to this condition, which is just not workflow knowledge base answer found, right? So it created the code for us. Now in this particular example, it's actually a pretty simple example, but there could be use cases where you have complex logic and you want to tell the generative AI what that complex logic is and have it create the condition for you. So if this condition evaluates as true, then we are going to be sent over to the search without additional details node. And if it evaluates to false, then we'll fall through and we'll come down here saying, letting the user know that we found a tap that meets your needs, and we'll tell them the particular answer, right? So again, as long as we've found an answer, we come through and we tell the user about that. Okay, so let's take a look at the last couple items here. So this one here, search without additional details. What we do here is because we haven't found an answer within the knowledge base, we actually ask the user if they want to search without the additional details that they've provided. And the reason for that is because, again, the additional details are the user being able to type in anything and everything that they want. So we ask them whether they want to search yet again with those additional details or without the additional details. So then once they if they select yes, that means they want to search without the additional details. And we run the query against the knowledge base another time. And this is really important here as well, because the query that we provide here is different, slightly different than the query that we provided previously. And the reason why that's important is because Botpress has some caching functionality on the back end that if it sees that two queries are very similar, it will actually grab the cached response and return that to you. So we found this in testing that that when we had two queries that were almost exactly the same, just missing those additional details, it kept returning us the same answers over and over and over again. So we had to switch the query in order to get the cache to not fire and in order to get us the results that we were looking for. So now from here, we're going through and again, we're looking to see if there was an answer that was found or not. And if we have found an answer, we let the user know that there's an answer. And if not, then we tell the user we were unable to find any matching items. Now, this is where a lot of the flows end up going to the end state. And the end state, what you can see is you can actually take a look over here within the workflows and look at the conversation end workflow. So you can run a particular set of logic right before the conversation ends. So in here, the only thing that we've done is we tell the user, if you'd like to search for another product, send another message to the chatbot and a new search will begin. It's as simple as that. And then the conversation ends. And then if the person sends another message, that will fire up the chatbot. And if not, then the conversation is over. So that's a look at how the chatbot was built. And now we can take a look at actually running the chatbot and playing with it and seeing what sort of answers and results it produces. All right, so now we want to take a look at how we test our chatbot. So the way to do that is to look over here in the bottom right, and we have an emulator. And we can press this blue button, test your bot. So once we do that, it starts the conversation. We can already see that it sent us a number of different messages. And you can see in between those messages, it has some sort of logging information almost. It's essentially helping you understand where you are in the flow and what's happening in between each of those different messages. So what we can see here is it's waiting for input and it's asking us what type of product we'd like to search for. So why don't we put in there one of the products that we don't support yet, end mill. So then it tells us, unfortunately, I'm not able to help you find that type of tool yet. You want to search for another one? Start a new search. Okay, so let's start another search. And now we'll say hello. So now it's going to ask us again what type of product we want to search for. And here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in tap, press enter, and now it sees that we're searching for tapping tools. And you'll notice that within the AI transition, the categories that we defined were tapping tool, not tap. The AI is smart enough to understand when you put in tap, that means tapping tool. So now we're able to go over here to the begin tapping tool search node. The other thing that I need to mention here is that the interesting thing is that when you're running the emulator, you're actually able to see in the editor within the studio here, you're able to see the node that you're currently on, that the flow is currently on, is highlighted in yellow. So it gives you a great understanding of where exactly you're at within the flow as you're going through and testing your chatbot. So now it's asking us what materials we will be tapping. So now I'm going to say aluminum. What type of thread do you require? Let's go with a coarse thread. Working with through holes or blind holes. Let's go with blind. Now, are there any other additional details you would like to provide? The tap must have a spiral thread. Okay, so now it's going to query the knowledge base, and it said it was unable to find any matching products. Do we want to run the search again without the additional details? And I'm going to tell it yes. So now it ran the search again, and it was able to find a tap that meets your needs. And it actually found a bunch of different taps. And the reason for that is because remember that each tap has a lot of different variations. So what we can do is we can search for this one, TPSN USC. So let's go over to our PDF, and I actually searched for this already. So here it is pulled up, TPSN UNC. So what were the parameters that we gave it? We told it that we want to work with aluminum, and this says that it works with a wide range of materials. We told it that we needed a coarse thread. It's a unified coarse thread here. What else did we tell it? We told it that it was a blind hole. And we can see here by the pictures that it has here, these are blind holes. A blind hole means that you don't go all the way through the material. And you can see that it stops just short of going through the bottom of the material. So this, in fact, should be one of the right parts, that can be used for what the customer is looking for. So this narrows down our search to exactly this set of items. So that worked very well. So that was showing it through the emulator. Now what I'd like to do is just take a quick peek at what it looks like when you publish and looking at it in the web chat. So here's the Botpress scenario, the actual chatbot that we published within the web chat uh, system, if you will. So this is a much more user-facing, user-friendly user interface, and now we can do the same exact things. So let's say hello to our bot, and now the bot's going to take a second to load. Oh, and it sent us all kind of crazy messages. So let's restart it for a second. Let's say hello again. Okay, so now it looks like it's in order. Hello, I can help you search for what kind of product are you searching for. So let's just do the same exact thing. We're searching for a tap. What materials we'd be tapping? Aluminum, type of thread. How about this? Let's look for unified fine thread instead. Working with through holes or blind holes. Let's do through holes. Any other additional details? The tap must have a spiral thread. So it's unable to find it. We want to run the search again without the additional details. We will tell it yes. And now it was still unable to find something. So we can try one more time. What type of product are you searching for? Let's tell it a tap again. Materials, aluminum. Type of thread do you require? Let's try the fine thread with a blind hole this time. Any other additional details? Let's copy this. The tap must have a spiral thread. Unable to find it. Do we want to run the search again without the additional details? Yes. And it was still unable to find any matching items. So let's take a look at one more thing. What type of product would you like to search for? We would like to search for a tap. We are working with aluminum, and then we want to do a coarse thread, and we will do a blind hole. The tap must have a spiral thread. Unable to find it. We can run the search again without the additional details. And here was able to return an actual result. So, so there we go. And this is the same exact result that we got in the emulator. So again, this is able to find things based upon what the user is giving, and the other key factor here is that the LLM itself makes a lot of difference. So as the LLMs get better and as you can use more and more high-powered LLMs, the actual search results will improve over time. So that's one of the big things to look out for here. And it's one of the things that we've seen in our testing, because as I was testing very early on when we created the solution, if we were using a less powerful LLM, we were able to get a lot less reliable results versus using the higher powered LLMs now. And as you can see, even with the highest powered LLMs, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get 100% accurate responses every single time and on every single search. Well, unfortunately, the LLM just didn't want to play that nice today. The testing that we did a couple days ago when we were building the solution, it was much better, but today it didn't want to return a lot of different results. So, as I mentioned in the video, the LLMs themselves, as they improve over time, a solution like this will get better over time. Right now, one of the LLMs that you can use within Botpress is ChatGPT 4.0, and we already have ChatGPT 0.1, which is a much more powerful LLM. So as that becomes more widely used and widespread, and as Botpress integrates that within its platform, we can then start taking advantage of that LLM, which should produce even better results than what we're seeing here. So if you're interested in having Crispy Software Solutions help you build solutions like this in your business, then feel free to book a call and let us know how we can help you power up your business.